As is yearly tradition, before I make my big prediction video of what's going to happen in 2026, we're going to look back at my 2025 predictions and see what I got wrong and what I got right, and we'll keep a tally over in the corner up there. So let's check it out.
Before we talk about predictions for 2025, I want to do a little foreplay. I want to set the table like a good host with a quick, dirty rundown of the past year. So 2024, in one word, I'll do even better. 2 letters, AI. The year when tech companies fondled each other's balance sheets in a race to lead the technology revolution, turning one's expenses into another's profits. Over 185 billion was poured into AI data centers, propelling NVIDIA to a $3.5 trillion market cap, proving nerds can sign breasts too. You win this one, Jensen. By the way, how did Lisa Su win CEO of the year? Is she going to break into the Olympics next? Google also proved monopolies can still do more than buybacks and ugly glasses when their breakthrough will in quantum chips solve ridiculously complex math problems in seconds, which is about twice as long as the average TikTok viewer's attention span. This chip takes 5 minutes to solve a problem that would take conventional supercomputers around 10 septillion years, which is also Zuckerberg's favorite number. By the way, a septillion is 1 followed by 25 zeros, or as we call it, OpenAI's dev team. SpaceX shattered records with 138 launches. Unsurprising given how many kids Elon Musk has launched into the world. I'm just shocked that all of these were from the same company. Self-driving also surged with Tesla's first fully autonomous vehicle, which is giving us all more free time for, well, more launches. Waymo also expanded AI-driven mobility, but they made less flamethrowers, so no one really cared. Clean energy fell short of AI's growing power demands, marking the end of wind and decline of solar investments. Turns out the only thing in 2024 that was limitless was Ozempic, and the only thing trending was ruining priceless masterpieces. Actually, that makes 2 limitless energies. Meanwhile, nuclear energy entered a new golden age. It's rockstar era, with natural gas on the drums and oil on the guitar making a comeback of the ages. Rift, baby, rift. The US elected Donald Trump for winning the meme war, bringing back his old money printer energy and the new bro team entourage to the global stage. It's just enough FU energy to get China to butt pucker a bit in the face of a new potential tariff war that could inflame tensions with their AI baby mama Taiwan, bringing more constraints to an already short supply in tech. And you know what rhymes with tariff war? Inflation. So that Jerome Powell is already anticipating to be tweeted his way as he continued to cut rates well above his inflation targets and remains defeated and attempts to stifle crypto degeneracy as Farcoin makes all-time new highs and gives him the fiscal equivalent of pink eye. Bitcoin also managed to break 100K and bears minds as magic energy money continues to battle its way into investment portfolios as either rapid speculation or the path to freedom from digital tyranny. So now we ask the question, what the f do you got in store 2025?
I gotta quit being lazy with my editing, dude. That's a pretty good intro. I need to make more intros like that.
Prediction videos are hard because it's like taking an exam for a class that you have next semester. You don't know nothing. You've been working your way up to this, but it's still a year discovery where you're going to learn new information that will provide new insights that will likely change your viewpoint or perspective as the year continues, right? Still,
Classic. Here's the key. Here's the key for those of you who are watching this, okay? The key to doing early prediction videos is always hedge like that, okay?
these yearly predictions
Always edge. It's super hard, so, we got to change the information, but here's what I think could maybe happen, maybe not. So much edging.
videos is a ton of fun for me because at the end of the year, I get to look back and go, I was right about that and that and that. And I just love feeding my ego. You can't feed the ego unless you put in the work. And I put in a lot of work into this video. I read through every single major bank's economic projections for 2025, their expectations.
I did. That was actually this leading up to this video was the most work I've ever done on a yearly prediction video because usually I just have fun with them. But there was so much chaos going into next year that I actually put a ton of work into try and figure out like what might be my base case expectation for the incoming year.
Their targets, their risks, their concerns. I even read through the government's projections, which, by the way, still concludes a risk assessment of the '08 financial crisis, which is the perfect embodiment of what kind of level they operate at. So if you average out the big bank projections, you get about 6,300. If you then take the median, you get 6,500. My projection is actually for 6,800. I expect more innovation than the market does. We are in the exponential age, in my.
I mean, that's a win, right? I mean, we could call that a win, right? I was above the bank's targets. We're at like 6,900. I'd say that should be close enough, right? 6,800 is down here. Well, they got a few days left of the year, and I was within 2%. That's pretty good.
Opinion. And so I'm starting to buy into the belief that it makes sense that the mega cap companies are outperforming everything because they're kind of taking over everything, and AI is taking over everything faster than I predicted. And I'm wondering if we start to hit a point where the innovations in AI, rather than being kind of a semi-annual basis, start to.
I don't know if I'd call that wrong, but it's not. I mean, honestly, 2025 was the year of grift. And it did take over the conversation. We got massive deals the entire freaking year, but that's not really what was the big driver of markets.
Occur on a quarterly basis and then on a monthly basis where everything just starts really cranking up. And that includes for innovations in robotics, which I'm going to bring back my 2024 prediction of it being surprisingly the year of robotics. I think that's coming this year. I actually believe that with a lot more conviction than I did last year. Last year was a bit of a more wildcard prediction. I think we're already starting to see it kind of play.
And I'm probably going to bring that back again into 2026. I don't know. Could we call that a win? Let's look at I think I have the ETFs here. So let's look at the daily charts here. So, I mean, you're up a bit on like the bots. You're up a bit. Well, we're up 17% on bots, which outperformed the broader market. I guess we'll use that as like the benchmark. Did you beat the S&P's returns for the year? Where is beginning of the year? So beginning of the year is down here. Yeah, Robo crushed. I'm gonna call that a win.
Out especially from some Chinese companies. So I'm looking for a huge innovation in robotics. I'm looking for self-driving to become a thing this year as well. Maybe not on a mass scale, but I do expect it to have way more adoption than people believe. In tandem with that,
I think we got that. Well, yeah, Waymo's been very low key, but has had lots of penetration in different markets. It's really, I mean, everyone's talking about Waymos in the cities now. Random podcasts that even aren't about markets are making jokes about the Waymos everywhere. So yeah, Tesla also is doing more self-driving efforts, and I think that we're gonna call that another win. 3 wins.
I do also hold the belief that Uber, this will be the beginning of the end for Uber. They're going to be a blockbuster story, in my opinion. Some people think that Tesla is going to use Uber for self-driving. No, they're not. I think, show me a case where Elon didn't create something himself and instead create a partnership with someone else.
I'm not gonna lie. I had that prediction on Uber, and I don't think I traded it hardly at all the entire year. Did Uber collapse? Uber is up from the beginning of the year. We're gonna call that one an L.
That doesn't happen. That's not the Tesla way, okay? Especially when he just bought out X. He's gonna turn X into the everything app. We're already seeing him start to do that. So they're gonna probably integrate that with X for the ride sharing and stuff through their own robotaxi program. And then I also expect huge innovations and tons of spending in AI, of course. We've already seen Microsoft commit to spending $80 billion in AI infrastructure, which is almost half what we saw spent in 2024. Now, I do expect the quantum stocks that went on insane rallies this year, your IonQ, your Qubit, your RGTI, to all get hammered this year as people realize that quantum has a lot further to go than they think. A lot of these stocks are priced for these innovations.
Obviously, that's another win, right? I mean, these stocks got hammered into the end of the year. They're trying to make comebacks now, but yeah, all these really speculative names got hammered when October came and rolled over. Well, actually, I don't know. Where were they at? Yeah, from these pumps, never reclaimed, just hammered. 2024. I mean, it's actually above where it was the close of 2024. Add a new tier. Add a new tier. I'll add a new tier that says kind of kind of
to occur within the next 12 months. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think that happens. And I think these stocks get clapped. As is represented also in my investment holdings, I think biotech is yet again another wild card that could take off this year. I am waiting for the AI programs that have won prizes in 2024, but haven't really related to new innovations yet in the space, because it does move somewhat slowly to suddenly take off. And when these names take off, they go absolutely parabolic. So I would not be surprised if the biotech sector actually ends up being one of the best returns this year. I do expect.
That's an interesting one. How are we going to benchmark this? We could look at XBI versus SPY. And so you beat SPY. You beat SPY pretty handedly. I'm going to move that just a little bit more over to get an accurate look. I'm going to call that a win. It might be a kinda, but I'm going to call that a win.
Expect uranium to continue its parabolic run. I think we're in the midst of a 10-year bull market there. I have no fears with any of my uranium investments. And
yeah, classic uranium perma bull, or as Jared Dillian would call it, uranium asshole. Who's the uranium asshole now, Jared? We'll use URA. I don't even think URA is the best one, but yeah, I mean these things went wild. I mean, I actually, yeah, I'm not as optimistic about uranium into 2026. But we will see.
No reason really to sell them unless I'm just looking to time highs and lows. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Trump is going to be in office. And lots of people's takes on how this year is going to go are warped by the political biases. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I don't have any. I don't really care. All right. I don't hate or love the guy as much as anyone that I know. So when I look at this, I see lots of potential bearish policies and lots of potential bullish policies. And the bearish policies, I think, come first before the bullish ones, okay? I'm expecting tariffs before we actually get corporate tax cuts. I expect corporate tax cuts to come like next year, and I expect tariffs to come this year. Now, lots of people are saying that tariffs are going to increase inflation.
I did not think we would get everything all in one year, and a year of absolute utter chaos and nonstop headlines. Holy cow.
I've been seeing this all over the socials. Not true. We can look at the data. We've had tariffs before. We can easily look at the data, and we can see that the economic drag caused by tariffs tends to prevent it from becoming more of an inflation issue.
I'm going to call that a win, because every major economist would come on the news and stuff talking about, and so many big names on X talking about how, inflation's going to cause, tariffs are going to cause tons of inflation. And I'll be honest, when I did all the research for this video, even all the big banks, none of the big banks said there was going to be, this a huge ramp up in inflation. None of them. I don't even know where people got that. That just became like this groupthink panic. And I'm gonna call this a win, but honestly, everyone should have gotten that win. Everyone should have known that inflation wasn't gonna be a huge freaking issue this year. It's for the exact reasons I said there.
Okay, so if there's more tariffs than expected, I wouldn't expect more inflation. I would actually expect more drag on GDP and maybe less performance on the indexes because of that.
Let's call that 2 wins. I don't give myself 2 wins for that one, baby. This is actually pretty good so far. That probably won't last, but we're doing well.
Less tariffs, I expect less of a drag on GDP, and therefore I would probably start to increase my projections as well. If we do get the corporate tax cuts sooner than expected, then I would then raise my targets. I would expect the market to rally on that, as it's an increase on your quarter-over-quarter earnings, and so it's just going to bring the market. It's going to price in more earnings. It's going to raise it higher. Very simple. There's other policies as well, but I think those two are the major ones that everyone's worried about, and those will probably be the biggest market movers. Now, Trump also said that he was going to do huge deficit cuts, but he wasn't going to cut any of the major spending plans. Okay, your welfare and your social security are not going to get touched. So I don't think anything significant occurs when it comes to making the government more efficient or Doge. If it does occur,
I'm gunning these down. Oh, God.
it will probably lead to one of my first predictions, which is that this market actually is inbound for a large correction this beginning this first half of the year. But at the end of the second quarter is what I'm expecting. A visit down to the 100-day EMA, which could bring it back into like the 500,000 range to 4,800.
Wait, I'm on a 15-minute chart. That's why this makes no sense. Wait a second. Let's adjust. Bid it. 4,800. 4,850. You know how many people said I was nuts when we put that out, man? Nailed it.
It's my first expectation coming into the year, as we do get more of the bearish policies. And typically, when you have two monsters,
to be fair, I think I said that. Well, I said in the first half of the year, so that was pretty good. I was telling Discord members I actually expected sooner than when it came, though. So, to be honest, I'm still going to give myself the win. But I do think that the pain in the market came a little bit later than I expected. And I mean, that's just been the trend for this market. It's so slow to sell off.
Years back to back. 2023 was a monster year, then 2024 was a monster year as well. Typically, the third year in a row isn't a huge run. Just looking at the historical data, it usually is a bit more muted if it's bullish at all. Sometimes years like this can trade completely sideways, like we saw in 2022, following 2020 and 2021. I think that that's not the case because I hold no faith in the government to actually fix any of the changes. And this is one of my biggest predictions. The Trump administration that everyone expects to say the economy won't save squat. The economy is screwed, and there's no real policies that are going to fix the real issues we have. And everything socially and economically kind of stems from the fact that there is a huge wealth disparity, okay? The rich are getting exponentially richer, and the poor are getting exponentially more poor, and the gap keeps widening. That gap continuing to widen leads to social degradation, leads to more looking at social media and being like, why is this person doing so well? Why am I not doing as well? Leads to more political turmoil, more...
Preach it, baby, preach it. What is everyone talking? Do you know Mike Green put out that 140K poverty line thing at the end of this year, and now it's going mega viral because now the divergence is getting so extreme between the rich and the poor. And there's been more political violence. We just had a guy shot at a university just talking about politics. Like, things are getting more violent. Violence is rising, and I mean, mark it up as another win, man, and that's going to only continue to get worse.
Leads to more of this virtue signaling in these policies that are feel good but don't actually change anything. We're already seeing a lot of this, right? I think this gets worse. And I think this leads to policies that actually make the rich richer and don't actually help anything.
Yep. No, none of when the market was selling off on the tariffs, they said it's time for Main Street. And then all the way up, all they did was caress the balls of Wall Street and do everything they can to pump the market. The boomers own like 70% of all assets. It's an economy that cares about protecting goods rather than people, protecting assets rather than people. It's disgraceful. It's not how I think you should run a country, but that's what we're doing, and it's good for trading. And so, people call what we do speculation and they belittle it. And honestly, as if you're an intelligent person, this is the most effective way to play on the government's irresponsibility to take care of the kids, to take care of Main Street, and to pad the pockets of boomers who already own all the stuff. Trump coming on talking about he wants to keep the market higher. It's not fucking helping anyone who actually needs help. It's just making the people who own all this shit richer. It's great for the market, but when you step back and you think about the real economy is falling apart. And I know some people won't agree with that. Scott Winship coming out arguing with Mike Green. I got a whole freaking Substack article ripping that guy to shreds because everyone is saying the economy's doing great. They're full of shit and they don't know how to do real data analysis. Well, guess what? You're going to need the former biochemist, biotech researcher to rip you guys a shred, because I don't think these PhDs in economics, I think it's a joke. Because I've read over 30 academic economic journals, articles rather, and they all were the laziest analysis I've ever seen in my life. It's not a real science. And that's why they're always wrong. You know, that's why all those idiots were thinking there's gonna be tons of inflation. They don't do real analysis. They don't know how to do real research. And that's why they think trading's so hard, because they can't do their job. They're incompetent.
And I don't think anything Trump
Sorry for the rant.
is setting out to do actually fixes that. Now, in the short term, maybe I'll be caught off guard, but what that means is that Bitcoin will likely go a lot higher, the market will go a lot higher. And
By the way, I'm so glad I don't have that headset anymore. I got that wired headset. That's a Shure headset that's wired in, so that what I hear when I'm talking is what the listener hears. So I constantly hear myself, and I know if I'm getting too far away from the mic. But that cord, oh my God, when my son got old enough to rip that shit off my head every 3 seconds, oh, I got rid of that so fast.
gold will likely go a lot higher. All of these are running really hot right now, and that includes Bitcoin. Lots of people think that Bitcoin's in the cyclical cycle, and it's going to keep going through this normal cyclical life cycle. This it's just how Bitcoin works, right? Every time there's a halvening, it goes on a massive bull run. Well, every time there's a halvening, the halvening is smaller than it was before, which means it has less effect on Bitcoin than it did before. And there's no real adoption in Bitcoin. People, I would say maybe even half of the people who hold Bitcoin are there as speculators. When half the people who own your asset are speculators, talking to you, MSTR, that leads to still huge corrections. When crypto hits the mainstream, where it is actually a currency that people use for their day-to-day spending, or view it as an economic diversification tool that is substantially different from investing in tech or just diversifying across different currencies, that is when, or even as an alternative to bonds, that is when Bitcoin takes off, goes parabolic, stops having major crashes, and also gives up a lot of the volatility that it has. It'll go for one final parabolic run, and then the retracements you'll see will become less and less exaggerated. We're not out of that yet. And in fact, I think the life cycle that people are used to is dead. So I expect Bitcoin to likely continue to outperform the S&P 500, but not outperform a lot of the mega growth exponential tech companies.
Mark it up as another win. Mark it up, baby. Put it on the list. Run up the scoreboard, baby. Number go higher. Make daddy happy.
I think Tesla could again outperform Bitcoin. I think that in the long term, maybe not this year, but in the long term, we'll see quantum stocks outperform Bitcoin. We'll see biotech outperform Bitcoin. There's just not enough reasons yet, and not enough.
I'm not even totally positive. Yeah, Bitcoin's down on the year.
The true adoption within the
All
crypto
that
space for me to make the pivot there, to making more content about it, as opposed to the stock market. So if you were hoping that this would be the year,
And be aware, when crypto becomes the big thing, I'll pivot to full crypto guy. Probably, I'll get really active in crypto. But it isn't. Like, all the money's in the market. You know, there's a lot of speculating and gambling. And, you know, it's a different way of trading. I think of trading crypto like garage sailing rather than real trading, which is probably only halfway true. But, you know, there's still so much edge in this market that you can find, and there's so much money sloshing around. It's just easy. It's a lot easier than crypto. So, you know, someday I'll be a crypto guy, but not today. Not then. Not when I made this. Not today.
I would become like a big crypto trader. We're not there yet, although I will play on meme coins and have been more frequently in 2024. And the crypto trends and the economic catastrophizing trends kind of work in tandem to build what is the trend for what I'm doing. Why are more people trading options? Why are more people sports gambling? Why are all these gambling sites? Why can you gamble on whether a certain actor will get a cold during the filming of the new season of whatever show? You can bet on everything, and suddenly everyone is betting on everything. This appetite for these riskier avenues for wealth generation that seem more of a roll of the dice is an act of desperation from a population that is coming to the realization, whether consciously or subconsciously, that the system really isn't working in their favor the way it has in past years. We, as millennials, as a millennial, are the first generation to do worse than our parents. Okay, at 40 years old, you are substantially less financially set than someone who was 40 years old 40 years ago. Okay, the 70-year-olds today are richer than 70-year-olds 40 years ago, and 40-year-olds are poorer than 40-year-olds 40 years ago.
It's all true. It's all true. And you know, I didn't even know I was going to talk about that in this video. I don't remember that, but that's another big thing that, you know, even Trump, when he came out and said the economy's doing great and stuff, you know, it's all bullshit. It's anti-truth. Okay, it's not true. Everything I just said there is completely true. Got tons of data to back it up. It's real stats, and they've only gotten worse since when I made this video a year ago.
Following me, this is not a good trend. This is a terrible trend. This is a trend from a society that no longer cares about how their kids are doing, and instead is more concerned about making themselves richer, making the rich richer, protecting the...
Yeah, I was the Mike Green before Mike Green, bro. It took him a full year to catch up to what I'm talking about here.
Rich, not taking care of the little guys as the wealth gap continues to grow, and that naturally pushes people. It enhances their risk curve because it's an act of desperation. And I think lots of people really haven't caught on to this trend. And I'm not saying that this presents opportunities to companies like DraftKings, because there is so much competition. There's so much demand. Half of college students right now have a gambling app on their phone and 1/3 of them use it on a weekly basis. That's an insane statistic. But this statistic does play well, one, for my business, but also for the markets. It creates more opportunities. Those opportunities are going to become even more enhanced if we get things like AI traders, where rallies are going to be extended, markets are going to go higher than you expect, and that's included because of the increased options activity, which already has been since 2020 increasing daily rallies, where instead of moving up 6% on one day, things can move 10% on one day. This will also increase Bitcoin and gold, as well as gold is seen as the hedge for economic catastrophe, not just inflation. Bitcoin, same way. These assets will go parabolic, and these opportunities, both in the
Gold win. Mark that as another win. Gold win. Absolutely parabolic. You know, do I give myself a win for the gambling, saying the gambling is going to continue because of the economic? Let's combine economic trend and prediction markets will also continue to rapidly grow. Let's bundle that in one and tally it up, baby. I think that's fair.
exponential technological age and in the gambling age is what I want to call it, are going to be like this is like the last 10 years to really secure the bag, to get the money as fast as you can. Get in the markets, get exposure to these. I know there's going to be times where these markets are going to have corrections, as is the normal cycle when you live in a credit boom and bust type environment. That's just what it is today. But you not getting access to this technology, not getting invested in these opportunities, these could be the train leaving the station for the next 100 decades before some technology that I can't even imagine becomes the new big thing. But it's hard to imagine what comes after generative AI, like what new company actually becomes produced, because generative AI does literally.
Wow, I am so optimistic in this video, actually, and I'm not that optimistic now. I don't think that's really a prediction. I'm really, really not talking about the next year when I talk about all that. I agree. You know, at the time, for the video I'm making now, not when I made this one, I'm a little bit more bearish, but I do think the market's going to continue to go higher. I'm just looking for like some sort of short-term correction to let some to just refuel, to the market to take a pit stop just before we refill higher. But yeah, I mean, I'm not wrong.
Everything. It learns what you learn in a decade in 10 minutes. It operates on a speed and level that the human mind can't even comprehend. Now, we might be a decade from that, but it is coming, and this is your chance to get invested before that occurs, okay? Tesla will still be my #1 investment heading into this year. I don't care how high it goes. I want to make sure that I'm buying every dip and kind of selling the intermediate highs, locking in some gains.
I actually did not buy the Tesla dips because it was too stagnant. It's still my #1 position. You know, we're up over 200%, but yeah.
And I want to keep exposure to AI names, kind of playing the highs and lows in those. And the same with it comes to energy, because nuclear is going to make energy cost next to nothing. If energy costs next to nothing, and technology is moving exponentially, and robots are doing all the work, so they don't have to sleep, so they can work more hours, they don't get tired, and they are hyper efficient. The future is something that is going to be really hard to even fathom what that even looks like, what that even is, how that's even represented when we're talking about something like a stock market. It's going to be impossible to quantify at this point in time. It's going to be a decade of discovery to figure out, okay, what are the implications of this and what are the ripple effects and any
blah, 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 dude. Okay, we get it. All right. Well, way to drill on, man.
As much as I possibly can get invested in the markets, secure the bags, because I don't know what the world looks like in 2 decades from now, even a decade from now. I don't know. And I know that it's more important than ever to be invested, be smart with your money.
You can hear my son. Well, yeah, let me think about when I made this video. My son is 2 months old when I made this video. You can hear him crying in the background. What did he do? Nugget.
Which leads us to the winners and losers portion of the predictions. I think Tesla will be one of the best investments to hold this year. And
I don't know. Is that right? Was it? What do we compare it to? What do we benchmark it against? Let's go back here. It beat the market. Was it one of the best investments? I mean, if you bought it on the dip, it was okay, but it took way more pain. I mean, Tesla almost took me back to my 2024 entry. I mean, it came within like 15% of my 2024 entry. So do we call that a top performer? Probably not. That's probably too generous. But it didn't do poorly, so nah, we'll count that as a loser. I'm being too generous. I should be a little bit more. Let's try to not be too partial. Okay, I'm calling that one an L.
I am betting my own money on it. This is my #1 stock. I think it has the potential to be one of the first $5 trillion stocks, likely in a race with Nvidia to secure that spot. I think,
and it's actually been a laggard in my portfolio. My uranium positions were the best. Well, no, that's not true. I think that is true. I don't know. I don't have it on hand. The only way I could look at my long term is on my tablet, which prevents me from trading in it. And it's not even near me. I think that my gold miner positions outperformed my uranium positions, but I don't know for sure. I think actually my nuclear and uranium positions outperformed. And Tesla is actually a bit of a laggard.
that Apple will be one of the biggest losers, as this company is priced as a rapidly growing, innovative company, but has not done any of that for many years. And I do think that slowly starts to become more and more prevalent this year as new robotics and AI innovations start to enter the market. And Apple, instead of being a leader or someone who's late to the party but tends to do it best, starts to lag behind and not participate in any of this. Now, they might surprise through buyouts or partnerships like the OpenAI partnership, but so far those partnerships have not benefited Apple much, yet the stock continues to climb its way higher and higher to a higher multiple than we've ever seen Apple trade at when they do the least amount of innovation than we've ever seen them do. I know that Google will likely be a big winner.
Google. Let's talk about Apple real quick before we talk about how right I was about Google. Let's compare Apple to SPY because it didn't even outperform the SPY. I want to call this a win, man, because a large chunk of my profits from this year were from shorting Apple. I made so much. I think if I look at my P&L for all the stocks that I traded this year, Apple's probably one of the top names. You know, for like the first half of the year, we made an absolute killing shorting every pop on that stock, because it was such a massive laggard, and you know it didn't even outperform the SPY. So I think this for the whole year was a massive value trap. And in the later part of the year, it's become, the narrative's kind of shifted to where like, oh, it's a good thing that they're not participating in the technologies of the future, which I honestly think is just completely stupid. You know, I understand some people are probably spending too much, and then it's a bit of concerning, but to go the complete other way and be like, oh, it's actually a good thing that you don't innovate. It's just, it's like a 10 IQ take.
In the face of what looks to be a lot of political pressure to split them up. Now, what happens when big monopolies get split up is frequently the parts of the company are worth more than the whole. And I don't think that they're going to break up the web browser portion of Google. I'm looking for them to split the company up in general, which means likely splitting off YouTube, at which point YouTube becomes one of my top 5 holdings in my portfolio. I buy YouTube hand over fist. Now, I also expect SpaceX to get listed in 2025.
So, you know what? We got to change to Google to a kind of, you know, because it was a huge winner, but not for the reasons that I predicted. And they ended up just getting a slap on the wrist for all the legalities that they were kind of battling out throughout 2025. So, but it was a huge winner. So we'll put kind of. I got the idea right. I got the reasoning wrong, and we did make a shit ton of money off Google. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think it was more than, because I gave some of that back, trying to short it when it went to like 320. Even though that position kind of worked, I pretty much came out of that short idea with just like slight profits. I'm trying to think, I did make a lot from it. Yeah. I'm looking it up. Okay, so I made. Oh wow. Okay, yeah, I did make more on Apple, but Google was number 2. Google's the number 2 most profitable. I guess I just have a bad memory of it because it left a bad taste in my mouth when it break down after I think the rally got a bit exuberant. And I know I also made a ton in my. I actually sold. Is actually the big fumble in this year. I had a huge position, and then I sold it when I was up like, I don't know, 90%. And then like the next day it came out that one of Buffett's portfolio managers had bought, and then the stock just kept launching. And I was like, oh, what? So that was wild. But yeah, I mean, man, there's a lot of charts in 2024 that looked like that. That was just a freaking crazy year, dude. Look at that beautiful cup and handle like formation right there, that wedge breakout. Like, oh, it looks so good. Such a great year. This 2025 has been a flagship year for me, an absolute amazing year.
At which point I also add that to my portfolio, and that adds our wild card,
My best year ever.
for this year's prediction, which is the space sector, satellites. I also expect Coinbase to finally break it.
Satellites is a huge win. Okay, you know, ASTS, RKLB. What was the other one? Was it LUNR? Started the year off great, and then it's now breaking out again. Yeah, SpaceX, even on the private markets, has gone absolutely wild, about to be the world's largest IPO. And the first quarter of 2021 or 2026 is what they're saying. So yeah, massive.
Its IPO high and have another stellar year with maybe even less volatility, as I think MicroStrategy will begin its period of stagnation, where through share dilution it will stop to have these great trade opportunities because it will no longer have this low stock float. I also think that Carvana will.
We made a killing on Coinbase, but then it gave it up into the year. Put that as a kind of. MSTR freaking nailed it. MSTR is my most disliked video I've ever created. When I called the high, the all-time high, when it was at like 540, I said, this is top, this is stupid, never coming back here again. And It's like 26,000 views, hundreds of people calling me an idiot, a hater. I don't understand Bitcoin. No, you guys don't understand what dilution does to a stock as a trading vehicle. I understand Bitcoin, but you guys don't understand stocks. You know, if you like Bitcoin and you buy MSTR, you're making a massive mistake. You're making a massive mistake.
Also go bank.
That's a mistake if you like buy it now when it's in the hole, but I still think it's going lower. And when Sailor goes bankrupt, I'll become a perma bull.
Up this year, or be on the path to it. I expect this stock to get hammered to a fraction of its.
And they added it to the freaking S&P 500. This company has multiple lawsuits. If there's anything that I still think is probably a fraud, it's Carvana. Multiple lawsuits that in detail go through what they're doing that's fraudulent. And they added it to the S&P 500. Do you know how many companies make sense to be added to the index? And now they just put everyone's retirement accounts at risk of this pile of trash with numbers that don't make sense comparative to the rest of the industry at all. And the S&P 500 is actually bewildering, man. You know, and passive flows have kept this thing afloat. And retail likes to trade it, but I think someone's, you know, someone's probably going to jail over Carvana. Is what I think, because it's super sus fundamentally. But yeah, anyways, that's an L, big L. Because yeah, it's doubled.
Current valuation likely down to like $60 to $50 a share, at which point it likely gets bought out. And the last thing I predict is more amazing videos from MDT. I did a lot of work on the intro.
That's another L. I got lazy with videos in the second half of the year. You know, just kind of like walking, you know, just kind of lost the passion for it, and we'll bring that back. I have begun to bring that back, you know, starting with this video. We'll do more video content. I've been sharing, I do private videos every single day for Discord. Well, every single weekday, that is. Sometimes I just write something up for them, but most of the time I'm doing videos. So I am making videos like all the time. They're just not always public, but that has dampened how many videos I do publicly. So, you know, in 2026, I think we'll have a more robust output. You know, a lot of the reason in the second half of the year that I made less videos was because we've been making more products. We're working with an AI startup, and I did a complete restructuring of the website and made the free course for everyone. And there's a few other things that I can't talk about yet because they're still in the works and then going on behind the scenes. But it was a very busy year. It was it was a great performance, you know, and I think a lot of that performance came to the amount of planning and research. And I mean, you know, just throughout the year when things changed, I think we did a really good job of pivoting. I think, you know, the team did. We have some great traders who've gone from being mentees to participants, peers, and they have great takes, and they're doing a good job of spotting stuff and learning how to critical thought, think about those second, third order effects, and that's been really cool. And yeah, I think 2026, I want to expand the team. I think that's a big thing that I've been looking for. So if you watch this all the way to the end and you're a proficient trader, reach out. I'm looking to expand and grow. I want to dominate. I want to be one of the best. I want to make this in one of the best trading groups. You know, we've grown as a team all together and gotten even better, you know, and I don't think it was just a great setups on the charts or, you know, the massive dip buy that we did on the tariff news. I think it really comes from a product of us all continuing to improve in our analysis and our execution. And so, yeah, 2025 was an amazing year. And we did, I think more than anything, we just did a really good job of just ignoring the noise. And I'm proud of the team. Yeah. So, and that doesn't just come from me being good at this. It comes in part from surrounding myself with the amazing people and many of the amazing people who also create content on the socials. So if you want to know who I think those amazing people are, just look who I follow on the X. And yeah, God bless everyone. I'll see you for the 2026 prediction video, which I'll put out closer to the end of the year. I mean, it already is close to the end of the year. Give me 2 weeks. I'll get it out. I'll probably get it out at the beginning of 2026 after holidays with family and stuff. So, yep. Stay sexy. Godspeed.